So what I learned is that if I take this off, and I put this on, and you do a full compression on that, you end up at 2 3/4 of an inch. I pick up a 1/4 inch with my 10 gauge plate up against this this thing. So I don't know how that guy did it with the internal slave. That's kind of interesting. I got the same 3/8 spacer that he did. But I got a path forward. So I'm going to take this guy. Oh, hang on. What I was saying, take this guy. I'm going to cut this ring out of him. And then when I put him on here, then it won't. Let me see if I can visualize this. And put him in. If I suck them down tight to those bolt heads, then without this thing, this center here is gonna bear right down on that machine surface, which is what I wanted to begin with. And then I can just bolt this in, maybe with some longer bolts to the snout, clamp it tight to these two, and then this guy will pull tight, and it'll be perfect. All I need is something to keep this from rotating when it's pushing on the clutch. So, cake. Well, welcome back to tonight's episode of We Do It Nice Because We Do It Twice. Today, I'm going to be cutting this plate back off and opening this hole up a little bit to see if we can get this thing to set down on these bolt heads and pick up our 1/4 inch on this guy so that he sits good and tight on here, and then we'll go from there. In the meantime, I bought a thing. This bad boy was on Marketplace. I couldn't pass it up. It was $200. They sell the little, it's a 7-inch by 10-inch. I think they're $600. I don't know. To be determined if it was a good buy or not. This thing is tiny. Did not realize it was that small, or else I probably wouldn't have bought it. But, you know, when you're at the guy's door and he's expecting you to give him $200, you kind of can't back out at that point, especially for, you know, that kind of deal. It's a variable speed, which is kind of cool. Forward, backward, and whatever that guy is. I think that's just your off on. So, I don't want to use it because I want to put this thing together for everybody that doesn't have any tools besides a freaking grinder, a welder, and a plasma cutter. That would be super sweet. And the only thing I can see myself doing with this lathe before I do final assembly is if I take this face and just take it down flush to the casting and bring it back with enough of a shoulder in here that it lines this guy up nice and straight. That way this is definitely centered on this. So that might happen. I don't know. I've never run a lathe before, so there's also that. I don't really want to fuck up my only input bearing retainer that fits. So if I can assemble this thing with my fancy pants alignment tool and it looks pretty relatively straight, I'll probably leave it at that. But if I can't, then I'm definitely going to chuck this bad boy up in a lathe, turn this down, and then maybe cut this off. But I doubt it. So that's the plan going forward. Next time you hear from me, this will be off, and I'm going to try to open this hole up a little bit. It's kind of close with this, but you know, you got that much meat to work with. And all this is doing is stopping this thing from rotating. This is going to bear down on here, and then I just need something so that when it's pushing that thing in, it doesn't freaking twist on me and break my line off inside the bell housing. So I'm sure you'll get a video at some point of me saying, "Hey, Now we're going to take it all back apart because this twisted off and broke inside the bell housing. And then I'll get a thicker piece of plate. But in the meantime, here we are. So, hang tight. I'll be back in a sec. So, here's where I'm at with this adapter plate. Wow, take two. So here's where I'm at with this adapter plate. This guy, currently, where'd my top go? I just marked it. Oh, there it is. Hard to see in the light. This guy sits nicely, like that. There's my 2 bolt holes. Sure, great. Oh no, they're right here. Right there. And you look at this, and it's sitting down on the heads of them nicely, like I want it to, right? It's nice and flush on that thing. And then this guy, when you try to put him on here, he hits the outside of that thing. That's my problem. So we might be doing this thrice. We'll see. I know my theory last time was to put a spacer in here so that this could just sit down on there, but that's too much. So if I grind this down to where it fits inside of this thing, or if I just grind this lip off of the release bearing, I'd get the same result. Minus, well, that clears. Right? Well, no, it doesn't clears. So, I think I gotta take the outside diameter of this thing down to where it sits up nicely inside of this. And then we'll be looking pretty good. That's where my 1/4 inch is coming from. Is this gap here. Whatever that number is. This number here. Like 1/8. Plus that plate is like 1/8. Plus, I don't know, some other things, I guess. Gave us what we got. So we'll go ahead and grind this thing down some. I'll remark my top so that I don't screw that up. And then, because if you put this on backwards, then you're hosed. So, alright, hang tight. We'll grind her down, and in a jiffy, we'll have this thing together, sitting inside of there with that thing put on there, and shit'll be happening. Alright, well, my grand plan was going really well until the great showdown happened. Here we are. I got a way to make this thing sit lower than this step. I'll show you that if this works. Here's my current conundrum. This guy is about that much too high. That much is like an 1/8 or less. And it just, you know, it's right there. It's in the fucking way. I'm torn. I don't know. Now's about the time where I either gotta commit or quit. And I think I just gotta commit because I don't have any other choice. But that ruins this bell housing. If I cut this, this is where my pivot would sit. If I grind that out, it's done. No going back from here. Well, I guess there's no going back anyhow because I ain't putting another fucking 6.5 in this thing. But you know what I'm saying? It's a tough call. So that's where we sit. If I use low profile bolts on this thing, you know, this is all I got for hardware. But that head instead of this head with the flange on it, there's just enough room for this guy to sit down inside of here. Oh boy. I might have to clearance him just a hair so that it's, you know, so that plate bears down on here and it doesn't pull crooked. But then my slave bears down on this face like I want it to. And then then I can, I don't know, I guess I can do the thing. This guy sits down nice and flat on there then, and then he gets bolted down with these adjusted nuts here that I ground down, so they fit inside of this thing nicely. If you look across this, boom, can't even see them. What if they're on the high spot? No matter. Well, matter a little bit. That's like 1 or 2 thou, not a big deal. Kind of a big deal, but not a big deal. Anyhow, it hits one here, but this one sits over in here somewhere, so it's okay. So I might have to drop him down a little bit more. But I don't know, this is a bigger concern. I really don't feel like taking a flap disc to the bell housing, but I'll probably take a flap disc to the bell housing. I don't know. Let me kill one more PBR and then see where we end up. Quick correction. Those nuts will work off this face here, where this is gonna bear down. Everything in that plane will clear, so that thing clears the nuts if this sits good and tight down on that. So yeah, I'll make bolts out of these heads, or just buy some bolts and grind the heads down and clamp those two on, and then the other two will get machined down with the grinder until they fit underneath of this plate. And then we'll clamp this guy on top, and then I guess, you know, somebody has to, before the night's over, someone's got to work on this thing with a grinder, because that's the gating. I don't know what you would call it. It's gating us right now. It's preventing us from moving forward and putting this transmission up behind a Dmax. And that is number one. Those clutch marks? Yeah, you don't need to worry about those clutch marks. That's, yeah, that's normal. I don't even know if those are clutch marks. That's a casting problem. Yeah, you can't blame me for that. That's casting. Yeah. Well, we got, you know, all the welds cleaned off of this guy. And I don't know what happened, but, you know, I was out there hitting that thing with the old twirly disc, and this bell housing just kind of fell in the way. And, you know, it's a little less than it used to be. Which is, I don't know. I didn't plan on that, but it just kind of happened. But here we are. It's still proud of this thing. You know, it's not a lot, but enough. I need to go this way and set it there. Can you see that plane? Yeah, just a little bit high. Not a huge deal though, because when you set this thing on here, boom, it sits nicely. And when you do this, get rid of this plate and set this on here, it sits the exact same. That's what we're looking for. So, for lack of having hardware on hand, I can't bolt it together. I need some 5/16 bolts, and unless I want to get fancy with some all thread and nuts and welding the nuts on and then grinding them down, I don't know, I think it's probably a better idea to buy 2 grade 8 bolts that size, and then 2 grade 8 bolts that size, plus this gap, whatever this is, plus that. So I got 2 long bolts and 2 short bolts holding this thing down. Then I can bolt that guy on there. I might still try to do a final assembly test tonight of just this. Slip the whole thing on there. I know it has to fit, right? It can't not fit. So I'm just gonna make sure that it can't not fit, because every time I said it can't not fit, it hasn't not fitted. So You probably won't see a whole lot on that. I'm just gonna try it again, and I'll give you the yay or the nay on the next video. And the yay is probably gonna be, you know, just a take with the transmission attached. Yeah, likely not. It'll more than likely be a nay, but you know, who's counting? So yeah, more to come on all this, but I'm making headway, and that's the big part. I'm just gonna label this video converting my external slave to internal slave, actually, or something of that nature, because it went really poorly the last go around with everything that happened. Then we get to play with the clutch cable, and Monday I'm ordering EFI Live, so that's gonna be super sweet. I can't wait to delete the anti-theft on this thing and throw some power at it and see what it does. Hopefully it'll just crank over and start real nice like for me, and won't be any problems there. But more than likely it'll go just like the transmission, where it'll be so easy. I don't know why people worry about it. And then we're on Rev 10 of this stupid fucking internal slave thingy. Yeah, so I guess this is important on how closely these things sat. Whenever I had these two slaves like this, and then I put this guy upside down on there. I don't really want to. It doesn't want to come out of the tranny, but I did that, and there's like an 1/8 inch difference here. I think if you're there, the 1/8 inch would have saved you. But since it didn't save me, I'm just gonna go for a 1/4 inch, and I'll pull this thing out and lay them there so that you get some eyes on the gap difference now before I completely call it quits for the night. And yeah, hopefully this works out for somebody. It already worked out for one guy, and I thought it was gonna make my life easy, but here we are. Well, as promised, here's this. I guess I'm gonna eat my words. Now they're the same height. So they're both sitting on the bench, and this is the transmission face. What I did wrong a couple videos past was I had them sitting the other way and measured across this top. So check this out. If I take this guy and throw him across the top. What? I don't believe it. Oh, now you can see what I don't believe. How? Okay, let me flip them over one time. I swear these were not the same. Well, I guess they're the same now. Good to know. How's this look for throw? Over there. Oh, I think mine's got more throw. So suck it. How about that, huh? Anyhow, I guess that means that either one's gonna work the same. And it just took me a little bit extra effort, and you know, putting that thing on and taking it right back off to get to be the same height. Because this thing used to sit like this then. Like this. I was sitting down on that, and it's taller now by the thickness of that plate. And then when you flip it over, I thought I was gaining a 1/4 inch, but I guess that's all I gained. I don't know. I guess I definitely have to put this thing together tonight and make certain that that's gonna work. I mean, I think it's gonna work because that's all we needed was an 1/8 inch, but you know how things happen and work and stuff. So hang tight. I'll put it all together tonight and just be extra sure that this is gonna fit. Well, I assembled the spell housing by hand, which is a first. I was able to just push it on there and tighten the bolts down. And I snugged them with the impact. And we've got, we've got room the whole way around. So if I push in on this thing, it's hard to tell, but there is a gap. Let me grab a flashlight. Right here. If I hang my light right in here, then you'll see it. Right? Come on, focus. See that? Ain't a lot of a gap. Maybe 3/16 or so. But it's enough that the clutch isn't gonna be, or that thing isn't gonna be riding the pressure plate the whole time and trying to make it slip. That's all I needed, was to make sure that thing fit. So since it does, we just gotta modify this guy. Honestly, if I set this thing here and then drew out these 2 bolt holes, well, it's really close to that. Let me find my top. All right, here's the top of this thing. Also, this is not symmetrical. A couple of these holes are wider than other ones, so that you can't screw it up. So it's got this nub, that's your top. Whenever you try to build this thing, if you don't have it clocked right out of the gate, and you drill out the wrong holes, so lines up nice on those two. If you go this way, it lines up a little bit less than nice, maybe. I don't know. It's not symmetrical. That way you can't put it on backwards on here. This has an oil reservoir or oil dump here to screw the oil back into the bearing. But what was I saying? Oh crap. Oh yeah. This is too close here. I can't open this up and get a bigger bolt head. This one I might be able to, but screw it. I'll just take a grinder to the bolts and make the heads a little smaller. They'll be fine. They probably won't even pop off that bad. So that is, I don't know how many revisions of this thing I've made, but not that many, but not that many. So final plan here. 1 single ring. This will bear down on that and just make the heads low profile enough that they clear. Make these heads low profile enough that they clear, and bolt the whole shoot and match together and call it a day. So at this rate, I'm not turning this down. There's no chance, because I ain't got enough room. If I took any material off of here, I'm going to hit the bolt heads. So this is final revision, ready to install. Tomorrow, I don't know. I got to do stuff that's not working on a truck. So probably ain't going to make it to town to buy some hardware. Maybe I'll, Monday night, I'll buy some hardware. And then hopefully by next weekend, that'll roll right into this being done, and I can get my EFI live here, and we'll, maybe in a week or two, we'll do the first fire up of this bad boy. It's currently November 8th, so I've got just shy of 2 months to have this truck running, which seems really unlikely at this point. I haven't even tried to make an intercooler fit inside the truck, or make any of the wiring nice, or plumbing, or any of that stuff. So might not be till January, but I don't want to slip a date yet. We'll see what we come up with by, be sitting a lot better in 2 weeks. Hopefully this is somewhat helpful. I don't know how to say all this happy crap at the end of a video, but I suppose it's not even at the end of the video. I still got to show you this thing bolted together. So sometime throughout the week, we'll I'll have this guy bolted together, and then I'll say all the happy crap. I'll think about it by then. Alright, good night, everybody. Well, folks, welcome back to another episode of Aaron's Tool and Die. We got custom bolts. These are 3/8. No. These are 5/16 by, I don't know, 3/4 inch. They were close to, the factory ones. Also, so you know, those are grade 5s from the factory. I don't know if it matters. Putting grade 8s in it. They're about the same length. So, we machine those guys down to a very precise dimension using our surface grinder, such that this dude can now sit comfortably like that. Right? Yeah, just like that. So, there's a little teeter left in it, but I think that's because it warped the plate when I welded the washer on it. But if you look down inside of here, you can see, well, I guess it's a little high yet. I didn't want to go any lower than that for not trying to strip the head of the bolt off. Putting them in, taking them out. You'll be the second ones to know how that goes. But now, I got these guys who are 1 inch. When you drop them down in, look at that. We got the same amount of stick out. I don't really want to put this back on that rag because that rag's dirty. Alright, here we go. Clean rag. I just cleaned this thing and oiled it again, so it's ready to go in. But we got approximately the same amount of stick out on the bolts coming around. So, close enough, I think. It's not like this transmission or this engine puts out, 500 foot-pounds of torque or something, trying to shove this gear back out of the front of the housing. So it's fine. Now, when we put this guy on, let me realign. Boom. Boom. He sits good and proper. Can you see the daylight? You can see the daylight. Look at that. It's sitting comfortably on that surface, right? Right there. This thing would focus. How's that? Worse. How about now? It's sitting there on this surface here. Well, I don't have enough hands. Oh, there it is. So, that gives me, I don't even remember the numbers. I think I used the thing as a rag. It'll clear, is what I'm trying to say. So, tonight's objective, like every other night's objective, is to mount the transmission onto the freaking engine. I measured the stick out of that again, and then I measured the distance from my this bearing in here, the pilot bearing, to here, and I measured from here to here, and it looks like my bearing is going to ride right about there, which is a little bit more than the old bearing based on the wear marks. God, this camera's sucking today. Yeah, you see the wear marks here? It's going to ride here, so it'll be good, I hope. I don't know, it might even be worth running the bearing in flush, but I'm going to leave it go for now. I tried to pull my input shaft back out. Oh, now it's going to go. I didn't want to go earlier, so I decided to leave it in. Going back to a couple whiles ago, that is almost a press fit of that nubbin on the bearing. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I may just draw the freaking thing in with bolts if it gets that close. It's about, I don't know, 1/4 inch or something, or 1/8 over 1/4 inch, 3/8 maybe, I don't know. So yeah, I was gonna try to do some other fancy measurements and stuff, and look at that aluminum dust in there. Yeesh, might need to do a better job at cleaning that too. I just hosed the whole shooting match out with brake cleaner, but I guess I missed a spot. I guess that's enough yakking. Let's get the bolting. You've seen me assemble this more than enough times. So I'm going to skip that on the video because it's a pain in the butt setting the camera up. But, you know, 2 bolts into the transmission. Then we got to put the bell housing on. And then we put our plate on. And then we put this guy on. And then I think we try to slide it into the fucking back of the motor. I even brought the floor jack in with us. So once I get this bell housing assembled onto the transmission, I'll bring you back in to watch me drop the transmission on the ground. And then after picking up the pieces of cast iron, we'll put it together.